episode, what is this? This is 3? Episode 3, right?
Yeah.
I got the big dogs with me.
All right.
I got my bosses.
Oh yeah, let's roll.
I got Columbus Recruiting Battalion. I got Lieutenant Colonel Watson with me, and I got my Command Sergeant Major Neil Sanders with me.
Cool.
Welcome.
Cool.
I appreciate y'all coming on.
Yeah.
Sir, you're leaving soon.
That's right.
Sergeant Major, you're still gonna be around for a little bit longer.
Yeah. My battle buddy leaving me, man, but it's okay. I'm not gonna cry right now.
I know people always say this, but y'all have been, my favorite command since I've been here in recruiting. Right.
Thank you.
So, sir, you just reached 20 years, right?
That's right. 20 years, a huge milestone in my Army career, and I think I can't even believe it's been that long because it seems like yesterday I commissioned from Morgan State University, and so it's 20 years today.
Morgan State, HBCU.
HBCU.
Right? Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Orange, white, and blue.
That's right.
Yeah. I had a buddy that he was on a full ride scholarship there.
Okay.
What year did you join?
I joined in 2000.
2000. Okay.
Yep.
That was my high school graduation. I graduated 2000. I didn't join right out of high school. Oddly enough, I was laughing at all my friends that were seniors that was joining.
Okay.
In this full circle, because now I'm a recruiter. And I was like, you guys are dumb.
Right.
Why are you signing your life away? And then 3 years later, I failed miserably my first try at college, and I called those same friends, and I was like, hey, man, I need
What y'all doing?
I need some assistance. And it was like, I'll send you to my recruiter. So, sir, I think, Sergeant Major, I joined in 04, you around the same time, I think. You joined a little bit before me.
A little before you, man. I think I've been there 23 years now. So.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I've been there for a while, man. So, but I love it, though. It's been a good experience so far, and I'm not complaining.
Jackson? You went to Jackson?
No, so my MOS was an 88 mic truck driver.
Oh, okay.
So basic training was in Fort Leonard Wood,
Lost
Missouri.
in the Woods.
Yeah, Lost in the Woods. Yeah.
I never had the pleasure of going there.
Yeah.
And I don't ever plan on going.
It's cold over there, man.
Well, I'm glad to have you guys on because I think it's important to look at recruiting from a flagpole perspective.
Right.
Like even, as a recruiter, right? And I used to be a recruiter. Now I work in a battalion with you guys.
Yeah.
The news outlets, when they want to hear something about recruiting, they usually reach out to the recruiters. They want to hear the on-ground perspective. But I think it's important to hear from you guys' side of the fence because you have the bigger picture.
Right.
Right? Like you're talking to people that, people are asking us questions and like, I don't know. Man.
Right.
My BC's on the, he's on the call with Undersecretary of the Army sometimes or possibly, right? And so you guys have more reach than we do and can give a broader perspective of recruiting from a battalion perspective. So that's why I thought it was important to bring.
Yeah, definitely good to get a different lens and a different perspective, a little bit higher up.
So 3-part question. We'll start with you first, sir. So we'll go with, you already kind of started, but if you can go a little bit more into why'd you join, when'd you join, and then where you from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can start there. And so definitely, again, I'm extremely grateful and honored for this opportunity. But it all started in Washington, D.C., where I was born. Then my father and parents and myself, we migrated to Maryland. And then fast forward 14 years later, we moved, got stationed in New York City, then came back to Maryland. And that's where it all started at Morgan State University. And so one of the things that drove me to it was my father actually talked me into joining because he himself was actually a recruiter in the Baltimore Battalion. Then he moved to New York City Battalion. Then he came back and did time as his final time out in Baltimore. And so he actually recruited me during my first year at Morgan State University. And so because I didn't want to go into basic training, I ended up being a debt loss, really. But it was a debt forgiveness. And so what I did after that point is I joined ROTC, and I ended up closing out that chapter at ROTC from a college perspective and commissioned as a second lieutenant. But the main reason I joined was really because I didn't want to be a music teacher. One of the things that I was a music major at Morgan State University, a piano performance major.
Okay.
But I did not want to
Nice.
be a music teacher making $20,000 a year. I wanted to actually do something a little bit better, and so the ROTC instructors there, they really saw a lot in me, and they said, "Hey, you can commission and become a second lieutenant." And they wrote down a number at the time of how much I would make per month.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I signed up, committed to joining service, and the rest is history.
That money talked, huh?
It did.
So for the good of the audience, right? DEP loss, delayed entry program, and so when the BC is saying he was a DEP loss, you were essentially had a job lined up, and
That's right.
you had a track to go to basic and AIT at a certain point in time. You get your recruiter up and you're like, "Nah, I'm having to change your heart."
I'm having to change of heart, and one of the funny things about that story was I didn't even know there was animal inspectors in the Army, but as a matter of fact, that's what I was. I became an animal inspector and an animal. No, I'm correction. It was an animal veterinarian.
Okay.
And so that was one of the ways out, and so it was really a job that I didn't really want, but. Again, I ended up being a DEP loss, which was hilarious, hilarious to my father. So,
And so Sergeant Major, because DEP losses is boy, that'll grind a Sergeant Major's gears in this business, right? A DEP loss. But so Sergeant Major, I guess we roll right into you.
Okay.
And same 3-part question. Why'd you join, and what were some of the MOSs that you had coming in, and where you're from as well?
Before I start, I would have loved to heard that conversation between your dad, recruiter, and a DEP loss future soldier.
yeah.
I can only imagine. Son, what was you thinking?
Right.
Yeah. So for me, anyways, I've been in now when I joined the Army, right out of high school. So in Fayetteville, North Carolina is where I went to high school, and I tell people that's where I'm from because. Like the BC, my dad too was in the Army. He was a mechanic, so he did 24 years. So I kind of saw the Army coming up as a child to an adult. So I did 2 years in the reserves.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I did 2 years in the reserves.
Team reserves.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
He hides that. He doesn't.
I ain't tell. Yeah, don't tell nobody. So I did 2 years reserves, and then I decided, it just wasn't enough, right? Because the reserves is 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out the year, or something like that. So before I joined active, I was in the civilian world, right, trying to work. So I was a bank teller. I swept chimneys. I washed cars. I was telling the BC not too long ago, I was a mall cop.
Oh, wow.
I was a mall cop. I did everything within a span of a year and a half before I decided to go active duty. So I joined primarily, one, because I saw my father do it. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a great example of what life looks like. And then the second part of that is just for stability. Mm-hmm. I had so many jobs coming up at the age of, 19 and 20. I said, that's enough. Let me find some stability, man. So that's why I really joined.
Before we roll into the next question, so, BC said he's from, he's a Baltimore Ravens fan.
Ravens, yeah.
I'm originally from Cleveland. I'm a Browns fan.
Yeah.
And so you have a football team, Sergeant?
I do, man. But I tend to go for the flow, man. He laughing at me, but it's the Steelers.
That's that first championship. That's our championship that you guys got. That's our team that you guys took.
Wait a minute.
From us. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
And we've been.
What about the second one though?
Yeah, we've been sucking ever since.
Ever since.
One day we might.
You guys picked up a few in the draft, so we look forward to.
Yeah, we can't never get excited. You never know what you're gonna get.
You never know.
Brownies.
You never know.
But we got the most loyal fan base, right? Like,
you guys do. Yeah, they tried to fight me one time when I went up there for a game.
Yeah. We don't hate you guys as much as the Steelers. The Steelers is like absolutely not. The Ravens is just like it's just kind of bitter because we feel like it's that was our franchise. That kind of left us. But I think something that's also good for the audience is like jobs, right? Mm-hmm. And so, many people don't know that. Like we got over like 268
we do
career fields, and then in my opinion, I don't really think there's a bad job out of those 268, just because everyone's different, right? Like I remember in this battalion, like during the pandemic, once they had open maps back up, you could start writing people. This was when Link was still there; he hadn't retired, and I had a kid up there talking to Link, the guidance counselor, and he called me and he said, "Hey, your guy got about 8 selections, and he don't want to choose anything." I said, "Don't worry, I'm already on my way up there anyway." So I get there and I'm like, "Hey man, what's the problem?" He's like, "Well, I don't really want to do any of these." This dude had 15 hotel, he had 14 echo, and so I was like, "You don't want to be a helicopter mechanic?" I don't even know if it's hotel, but it was 15 series, and he was like, "I don't want to do that, Sergeant." I was like, inside my body, I was like, "You will do it, and you will like it, right?" Because when you're in, like we've all been in, 20 plus, right? When you've seen or worked with other career fields, you tend to think they're cool or cooler,
Right.
Yeah.
And so the kids that are just coming fresh in the door, they have no idea. Like you just can't go off the street anywhere else in the world, and they're just gonna send you to helicopter mechanic school.
No, that's true.
And so, but kids don't. Our applicants don't look at it like that. I think they kind of see this first, the uniform before they see the MOSs, and I think it's kind of hard trying to put that seed in their brain and like we say 1%, but literally like you're getting stuff that like most people in the world would never ever do in their life. They would never get in a helicopter.
Right.
It would never be close to a Black Hawk. Right? Like they would probably never, even just travel, CONUS like Alaska or Hawaii and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
Right.
what are your thoughts in terms of like what you guys are experiencing? You see like depth losses and stuff, and you think like, how did he turn that job down, even when it had a bonus or an incentive to it or something like that? So
No, I think you're right. I think when I think about how the world sees us, they only see us through that one lens, and that's what Hollywood sees us as.
Yeah.
Whether they kick indoors or whether they jump out of airplanes, just the war side of
airplanes is cool.
It is cool. Don't get me wrong.
I didn't want to smoke when I was a private, but when I got older, I was like, man, I should have went to airborne school.
But like you said, there are 150 other MOSs, and so I can attest to about 3 that I've worked with that my first time working with, completely blown away. And really the first one that I had the privilege of working with that I want to point out is the 15 Whiskey.
Okay.
And that's a UAV pilot, which is an unmanned aerial vehicle, also known as your drone operators.
Oh.
I had the opportunity to work with a few of those folks overseas while I was deployed during my first deployment, actually, and I can attest. I mean, that job is pretty cool because they get a chance to visualize and see, whether it's reconnaissance or intel information, in different territories of the world. And so, if you know of any people out there that are like really interested in video games, because it translates well into video games, because they're sitting there with a little looks like a Game Boy, and they're flying missions, and so it's one of the more interesting jobs that a lot of people just don't know about. I've also a lot of people don't know this too, but I love to eat. I also love to cook. And one of the other jobs that I had the opportunity to work with is the 92 Golf, and that's the person that not only works in the chow hall in the DFAC, but they also serve food out in the field and in garrison. And so a lot of people don't know that you can come in and be a culinary specialist and work with different chefs and really focus your craft on being a better person if that's what you desire to do. And so I think that there's so many different opportunities out there for young kids to learn and grow with all the different military occupational skills.
Yeah, speaking of, so like you mentioned drones, and then, Sergeant Major, I just finished up using credentialing assistance to get my Part 107 drone license. Not as cool as the one you'll do inside the military, but, I'm attracted to technology, and so I like, like how you said, video games, I still game, and so, doing some of the simulations, it just came easy to me. And then also, again, like how important and how unique some jobs are. Like I used to be military intelligence. I was an interrogator.
Oh, okay.
And we had a vacant drone operator slot.
Yeah.
Everybody in the unit has TSs in a unit like that.
Right.
But the slot was vacant and the drone sitting in the conics. They wouldn't even let us see it.
Wow.
Right. Like so, and then that's that lets you know that's how important some jobs are. Where you can't even look at the equipment unless you're like the supply sergeant because you got to do 10% inventory or the company commander.
And I left this out too about UAV operators and 15 Wiscos. As a fire support officer, originally branched, I was originally branched field artillery. We got the opportunity to work with Ravens. We actually all got a Raven. I think they changed the name of it now, just due to how much time has elapsed. But those Ravens did the same functionality as a lot of the drones that do now all kind of high tech stuff. But again, that's just another unique, very niche field that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah. Sorry, Major. What's some of the cool?
I mean, just to recap on some of the things y'all was saying, man. Sometimes in the public eye, all they see is a uniform and that surface level. You know what I'm saying? But there's so much to this, right? For an example, I used to tell kids all the time when I was a station commander, you're about to be 17 or 18 years old with a security clearance. There's not too many grown women and men out here walking around with security clearances, and here you are at the age of 19 with a security clearance based off your job, right? Yeah. So if you think of those jobs like, I don't know, geospatial engineering, where you got to go out and you got to overlap maps, you got to look at coordinations to send out to the battlefield or whoever it is out there, you're being trusted with that kind of level of information and that kind of security clearance at the age of 19 and 20. That's important. But you don't know that if you're just looking at this uniform.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I would say one of the MOSs or jobs that I didn't know about that I think is cool, we're probably a band Army member, right?
Yeah.
I think they're so cool. I remember this one time being young, this guy was like, my dad took us somewhere, and they were just singing their hearts out, man. And I'm like, man, what is this, right? It wasn't until I joined the Army that I found out that, hey, these guys are actually in the Army, and they sing like they're American Idol or something like that, really cool. I'm like, man, these guys can really sing or play an instrument like the BC, but I didn't know that, you know what I'm saying, as a young child. I just thought it was somebody singing. Yeah. But to have different MOSs like that, I think when you join this organization, it's probably one of the best organizations you can be a part of because we have so many opportunities based off your level of thought and what you want to do. So,
Yeah, and hard to get into.
Because
the 338th band right outside the gate, which is just a reserve unit. Most kids that want to go into, they don't make it past the second interview, and some of the kids are like, they're talented at the high school level. Yeah, and then they get to the second interview and they just
got to read, write, and something else for a band member. I'm like,
they don't cut the mustard, and so
I can rap though. Like, you gotta do more than rap, man.
Or sing, right? But if it's instrument, they're strict.
Can I be vulnerable for a minute?
Go ahead, sir.
So I know this story all too well. As a matter of fact, I actually auditioned to be a conductor.
Okay.
Having a music background and a music education degree.
Oh, wow. I just learned something.
I just don't typically tell people about my failures all the time. But I probably need to open up a little bit more about it.
They make you stronger.
But they do. They make you stronger. And to even get called back a second time is a milestone because I've actually looked into the AG, because again it's in our AG branch, but I think that it's a very small, unique program in the Army band, but a lot of people, like you said, don't know about it at all.
Yeah, and just speaking about the challenge, which I would argue that it should be challenging, right? In this, this business that we do, in any MOS, you pick. Like when I would do classroom presentations, and kids would ask me, like, is basic training hard or is it challenging? And I would say, one, it depends on the person. Right. I would say, is Army life hard or challenging? I would say it depends on the person, but it should be challenging because we're doing challenging things,
Absolutely.
Right? And then, pressure bust pipes and pressure make diamonds.
Man.
Right? And
so
everybody cannot come up here and wear this uniform.
That's right.
And so even though we have plenty of people out there that just think, we're a bunch of rockheads and, anyone can do this, hopefully we can kind of like change that mindset. Because some of my best skills I've learned in the Army. Like I had a shop chief, and officers, they're spreadsheet, PowerPoint, Microsoft Word gurus. To the T. And I remember I was going to Cleveland State University before I changed my major to film. Accounting broke me, so I ended up changing my major. But I had a class that we had to do a spreadsheet assignment, and I'm putting all these formulas in, and I'm doing all these color codes, and the professor thought I cheated.
Oh, wow.
And I had to come back to class and do it in front of him, and he was just flabbergasted. He was like, "How do you do this?" I was like, "Man, I got officers, man. They love their spreadsheets. They love their colors. And you know, so those skills is you can't really find those anywhere else. And so those are like some of the skills that people just don't.
Yeah.
You know, like we got really talented people.
That's true.
In uniform. I guess we'll stay with you, Sergeant Major. What's some of the cool places you have been and some of the good experiences that you've encountered?
I kind of wish I would have experienced Germany and Korea, but I didn't get a chance to experience that. The BC part can touch on that. I would say, let me think, Las Vegas was really cool. Let me see, they stationed me in California. Oh, wow. That was really cool. And I would say some of the places I visited because of the Army was Hawaii. Oh, yeah. I went to Hawaii. Nice. It was nice, man. Expensive, but it was nice. Vegas was probably one of the better stations that I've been to because there was so much to do. You could either do family time, you know, go spend time with the family, or if you were feeling kind of like you want to listen to some music or anything else, go on the strip, do that for a couple of hours. Yeah. So Vegas is probably the coolest place that I've lived at since the Army sent me there.
Hawaii is one of my wife's bucket list places in the world, and so I took her there for her birthday a couple of years ago. Her and my daughter, they did not want to leave. Yeah. And she was like begging me when we came back to like try to get stationed.
Oh, yeah, Hawaii. That's lit. Hawaii.
It's a beautiful place. Hawaii. Nice island. Yeah. We were on Schofield Barracks, right?
Yep.
We were, yeah. So we were right around there. What about you, sir? Where all the cool places?
Sure.
And some of the experiences that you've encountered.
No, absolutely. I would say living in Germany was the most sought out assignment and best for myself and my family. And the reasons is because I felt as though it was a kind of a cultural immersion because we were not only living there, but, you know, living, just going to supermarkets, you know, as well as looking at and participating in a lot of the markets, the Christmas markets. You know, every year we went to Oktoberfest, as well as just all of the seasonal activities that they do. And the food was amazing, you know, and just being able to travel. My folks really enjoyed traveling. All three of my daughters, well, actually I only had two at the time, but they particularly were, you know, wanted to learn more about the culture through understanding the language. And I felt like that was the best assignment because they got that opportunity. And it's going to stick with them the rest of their lives.
True story.
The rest of their lives, so...
You know, one thing, too, you'll have in the Army, too, outside of the places is the people.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, you can build a nice community of, you know, brotherhood, sisterhood when you are in this kind of environment. Absolutely. You know, some people you run across, you know, you'll never forget. Right. Like the BC said, his children were able to experience some German, you know, cultures and everything else, and they won't forget it. It's the same thing with people that you encounter. You'll never forget some of the people that you serve with, man. So that's another great experience.
Half my wedding party was guys that I deployed with. Yeah. And then, you know, to your point, the one thing I love about the Army is your uniform is a story. Mm-hmm. You know, if you see a certain patch on someone's right sleeve, it's like, when were you in? Right. You know, when were you at Camp Anaconda, or when were you in Kuwait at Camp Buren or Arif John? You know, you could just tell by the patch where they've been or where they were assigned, and then that starts a conversation. Yep. You know, I was there during that time. Like, this was the post commander, and you know, and you start.
You know, sharing. Yep. Like, I know them.
Absolutely. So, as a BC and Sergeant Major, what is the ideal applicant that you guys, because we you know, in this business and I'm a part of it, I know we don't just take anybody. People think we just take anybody. Right. But what's the type of person that you guys are looking for?
I one of the things that I try to do, especially when I'm looking at whether it's applicant files or looking at applicant review records to let me know if they're going to enlist or not, is honesty. And that kind of is the first thing that I look for, because when you look at a person's character and a person's honesty, you can work with a little bit better, and you can peel back the onion of if they're a good candidate to select them to enlist or not. And I tell you, we are an army of second chances, and so when it comes to applicants and when it comes to like seeing if it's a good fit, I always look at that person's heart and what's going on the inside, and everything else typically falls into place after that. But if I spot out anything else, it would lead me to believe that they weren't good applicants. So,
Is there any? So I know the answer to this question, but are there applicants that you had to turn away that you like? Hey, I would love to work. I would love to try to give you this opportunity, but we can't swing it. Not with that background.
No, there has been a handful throughout my 21 months now here as a battalion commander. There are about a handful. Typically, that's why I empower my company commanders to vet a lot of the applicants before they even get to my level, and as well as those station commanders to see if they are fit to enlist in the Army. And so that's the cold hard stop there. And so a lot of times once they get to my level, they are vetted. So the expectation is already there.
Right.
Sergeant Major, what do you think?
For me, I look for an applicant that's committed, right? And I say that boldly. You need to know as an applicant that we don't need you in the Army, right? The population that actually qualifies to join the Army is 1%. So when you come in here and you're committed and you know what you want to do, I can work with that. It's not a perfect world where you get exactly what you want. So you have to be committed in that process, right? So if we don't have a certain job for you, we find a way to get that job at least, close to what you want. And to me, that's commitment, right? If you don't have the certain body fat that's required to join the Army, well, if you're committed enough, we're going to help you meet that body fat. So if you're committed, we can work with not anything, but we can work around a lot of things that might be an obstacle from you joining the Army. So when you ask that question, I just want an applicant that's committed to join and know why they want to join.
I think that covers a little bit of the advice portion, right? Is there anything in addition to that, like that you would give some advice to someone out there that's thinking about joining and they're having some type of reservations? Any advice you would give to like the target market at all?
Yeah, my advice would be to do your research, know exactly what it is that you want to do, but also be flexible in your thought process. Again, it's not perfect, so you're not going to get what you want right off, pending you don't qualify for it. So just be flexible in your thought process and be committed to the process. And then once you get to that level where you're able to join the Army, and then from there you can branch out to do whatever it is you want to do within the Army. Is my advice.
Absolutely. Sir, you want to add anything?
Yeah. I mean, he said flexible. I would say be teachable. Be a person who's about growth. Be a person, because every person that I've met who's already in is that way as well. I mean, the previous sergeant major would always say, 1% better every day, and so gradually, before you know it, you'll be looking back, and no one will know you've came this far, only you. And so I think just being teachable and being able to receive feedback will help you succeed and will help you get the right mindset to enlist into the Army.
So in 2025, our target market is what, 17 to prime target market 17 to 24 ish, right? It's a young man's game.
Yeah,
it is.
My body's old, right? Like I'm itching to hang it up after 22 years. But what who do you think would be a good fit? For someone in that age bracket, and then why do you think for any 17 to 24-year-old out there listening, why would you, if you were to talk to them and say, why would you say this is an option you should consider, or this is an option you should think about choosing for your career path and your professional development in life?
Yeah, good question. Who at that age? I would say those that have probably like the wildest imagination of what they want to do, right? If you have that kind of imagination, and the Army has probably most of the jobs that the world can cover, right? But you don't qualify because of your age at that time.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're like between 17 and 24, you want a job that's like that has this security clearance or this top security clearance that you might want. Hey, you know what? Study for it. Take the ASVAB and get that job that the corporate world won't offer you right now because of your age. So I would say know why you want to do it again, and then, hey, go for those jobs that need a top secret clearance or a secret clearance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would also say that the direction the Army's going in is more or less about being in good, physical shape. I would definitely add that to the mix because, the way that that the requirements are going into is that they want people who are not only of whether or not you're physically fit, but to make sure that you're practicing good eating habits and that you are succeeding in a lot of the requirements for the Army standard in height and weight. And so I would definitely say to be in good physical shape and good eating routines. Also, the mental and emotional piece should be there as well. Or if not, you should definitely be a work in progress. I know I'm a work in progress when it comes to being, mentally and emotionally and in that regard of growing. But I think those are just surface level things that you can work on. And it goes back to what I just initially said of just being teachable in that mindset to be able to grow and get 1% better in whatever area that you're lacking so that you can balance it out at the end of the day and be a better soldier for us in the United States Army.
Nice.
Sir, so as a high-ranking position and high-reaching Congress, right? They don't dictate the mission for the U.S. for like all branches, but they heavily influence like, hey, we're gonna have a military, right? And so there's, a lot of people don't want us to have one, right? But as long as we're a nation,
right,
and a functioning one, we're gonna have a military, and so I don't think people even realize that like Congress, has a little bit of influence of, hey, we need this many.
They do.
People for our military,
Right.
and then that's a trickle-down effect of
That's it.
now branches start to sign, okay, you know what? We need this many people. Navy, we'll get this many people. Army, okay, we decide we need to. Can you speak to that?
Sure. Actually, I can speak to it directly since I work in the G1 field. And so every year Congress sets a specific end strength that they intend on meeting. And so when Congress gets together, they talk to the departments get together, and then each department comes up with an end strength. And so Department of Army comes up with their end strength, and then they figure out how many people that they must assess in order to get to that end strength, because they also have to factor in folks that are attriting, whether they're retiring or just exiting service. And so they come up with a number, and so every year they come out with an accession goal that the Army must meet. And so that's how it trickles down to recruiting command and say you must assess X amount of soldiers for FY26 or whatever year that we're in. And so that's the down and dirty on how every year the Army comes up with a new accession mission. Every year the Army in the department and Congress comes up with a new end strength that we have to meet in order to meet the needs of the national defense security strategy. So,
Nice.
Sorry, Major, you want to add anything, or did
I can't top that. Man. He did that.
He's got the leaf, right?
Yeah.
So he knows what's what. But I thought it was important to bring that up because as a recruiter, Sergeant Major, and when you were a recruiter, people think we're just sitting around with evil villain hands like, I can't wait to find the next applicant to get in this Army, right? And it's just, we're tasked to man the force. That's our job.
That's our job. That's how mission orders work.
Like I said, it's going to be a military, and we're tasked with making sure that military has an end strength.
Yeah.
And then, the operational side, they have a readiness standard.
Right.
Right. And so, I thought that would, that's one of the reasons why, I brought you guys on, because that's something that no one thinks about when they're responding to me in the DMs on the Army Recruiting Ohio page, cussing me out because Travis made a Minecraft post and stuff like that on IG. They think we're just evil villains trying to trick the mind of citizens to join. But we're gonna have a military and it needs to be manned, and those who are willing to join will join, and those who don't, by all means, that's your prerogative.
Yeah. Absolutely,
right?
your
all
prerogative.
Volunteer force.
Absolutely.
Right.
I think we'll finish with the area of operation, right? So if you can talk about where the portion of the map that we cover for Columbus Recruiting Battalion, Ohio, Slither of Kentucky, and where we're at in Virginia. And then that way the listeners can know, oh, that's my area.
Oh,
and
okay.
then,
Gotcha.
all right, I'll reach out to someone, and then we'll do the shameless plugs of the IG and pages and stuff in that and how they can reach us.
Okay, yeah, too easy. So Columbus Battalion is broken down into 6 smaller companies that go all the way east into West Virginia, into the Huntington and Charleston area. And then we have mainly portions of the southern region of Ohio, all the way over to Cincinnati, Ohio, and then as southern as Florence, Kentucky. And then our 2 main metropolitan areas is Cincinnati Company as well as Columbus Company. Those are 2 biggest companies. And then we have smaller companies which are located in Dayton, Ohio, which is our Dayton Company, Lancaster Company, as well as the Barbersville Company. And then we have all the way north on the western side of Ohio, which is our Miami Valley Company.
Nice.
And so yeah, we rank. We're not the biggest battalion in USAREC, but we actually make a good living out here, and we do well.
Yeah.
Which in the news, like recruiting challengers are all the rage, but we did well last year. As a battalion. And then we split Ohio with Cleveland, right? And I think the line that we kind of split at is what Marysville, just north of Delaware, right? Is where we split with Cleveland. But even though that's my hometown, right? Like recruiting wise, I'm not even sure if they
Just come on down here to Columbus area. We're gonna take care of you. Don't worry about it.
probably made some enemies. Just now, if they ever hear this, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that was spot on. I mean, we cover a lot of areas. Most importantly, we have very good NCOs within the battalion, and not just looking for numbers, but looking to change lives, right? So when you're in the recruiting station and you come there and you have questions about any kind of programs, I think the NCOs are equipped to answer those kind of questions that applicants might have, right? And I think that this is a ready force organization that we have, and I think that again they care about the people, not the number. So come on in. Am I looking at the camera?
Yeah, do what you want to do, sorry, man. Yeah. It's going on YouTube.
Yeah. No, man, so spot on. Not only, like the BC said, we cover those areas, but we just have some of the best NCOs and first sergeants within USAREC.
Quality over quantity.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
Something I'll never forget. My first week in the ARC, Sergeant Major Martinez walked in and gave us a speech, and he said, "I need eagles, not pigeons." Right? Like he said, hey, you could find pigeons anywhere, but it's hard to find eagles. And he told us, like, for you guys that'll go back to the line after you finish your tour in recruiting, think about when you have that young private that maybe getting on your nerves or grinding your gears, and you say to yourself, like, who put you in the Army?
Yeah.
And his response was, you did, Sergeant. you put him in the Army, right? And
That's it. Yeah.
I don't think people, again, that's not something people think about. Like I said, I think they, probably think we're just throwing rocks and just like come one, come all. But, again, this isn't an easy business to get into because I've lost plenty of guys that that wanted to join and they just didn't meet the standard that the Army had set for. Any final words before I do shameless plugs of?
I mean, I'll be brief and be gone, but I do appreciate you allowing me and the Command Sergeant Major to be on this call. And like you said, this is kind of my last hoorah. Got about 60 days left in the seat. And taking command of this battalion has been a very rewarding experience. And I would like to just, say that I've adopted a lot of different sayings, but I think the biggest saying is to take care of my people, right? And so Simon Sinek has a quote that he uses a lot, and it reads, "Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge." And so it goes back to me to responsibility. And it's not about the rank. It's not about sitting this high position of being a battalion commander, but it's about leading and developing the soldiers that are underneath me, taking care of them and making sure that they have everything they need to be able to recruit and to be able to do, great things for the Army. And so I take that very, very seriously, and I'm just proud to be a part of this organization. So again, thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Sergeant Major, top of the enlisted order and battalion.
I should have went first because that was tough to follow per usual. No, I would say I touch on two echelons here before we head out. One is obviously the battalion that we have, the soldiers, the caliber of soldiers, the caliber of leaders like the BC and the XO and everybody. We have a great battalion here. And as a Command Sergeant Major, I really appreciate the efforts, the dedication towards the mission, and all of the works that the recruiters are putting out there. So I really appreciate that as a CSM here in the Columbus Recruiting Battalion. And then lastly, I would say that if you are someone that's, interested in joining and you're having some reservations about it, hey, don't be afraid, because I was afraid a little bit, right? I was like, I don't want to do this. But don't be afraid to go out there and get some information and plug in, right? Mm-hmm. And really lock in to what you want to do as an individual. Either it's for you or it's not for you. But I would just say that give yourself an opportunity, right, to be better. And I like that saying, too, be 1% better every day. If that's you out there, I suggest, hey, come on in, get some information, plug in, and then lock in and see what you want to do. But other than that, I love the Army, and I love the things that it's provided for us, and it's just been a good ride here. So I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I thank you both for coming in and talking with this battalion. Sir, before you leave, you depart the battalion, and Sergeant Major, I'll probably get you on one or two more times before you leave, and we'll chit chat and banter some more.
Okay.
If you are interested, and you're listening to this podcast, and you're thinking about joining, of course you can reach out to your recruiter in your area. But if you want to reach out to me in the VRT section, 614-359-5079, and then you can also reach out to us on Army Recruiting Ohio on Instagram. Travis is amazing. He runs that page. You can hit me up in the DMs. I'm always in there responding to people. And then you can also follow me on A Soldier's Diary at Instagram, a.soldiers.diary, if you like seeing soldiers doing cool stuff. Episode 4 next week. The executive producer is in here right now. He hasn't said anything. Major Hobbs before he leaves. Talking infantry and the science of combat.
Awesome.
Follow me.
Follow me.
Romeo Charlie.
All right. Nice.